And joining me now is our panel, Daniela Diaz, congressional reporter for Notice, Taryn Rosenkranz, Democratic strategist and founder and CEO of New Blue Interactive, and Stephen Hayes, editor and CEO of The Dispatch. Daniela, I'll start with you in the news that the president has now ordered the Department of Defense to pay the troops here. Republicans had been using that as a pressure point, saying that money's in the CR. You got to vote for the CR. We got to get this over the finish line. Is the president undermining the Republican position here? What do you make of this?
I mean, the whole point of Congress is to appropriate funds. And if Trump is going to do this on his own during a government shutdown and buying allegedly probably time for there not to be a deal or any sort of negotiations between Republicans and Democrats, I mean, he is in a way undermining his own party in Congress. Look, this is really, really messy. It's probably, we were just talking, one of the most tricky shutdowns ever because they're not even negotiating. They're not even talking. Usually by now, in past shutdowns, I've covered the last couple that have happened in the last 10 years, they're talking. They're not talking right now, and they're hoping, you know, what we're seeing publicly from Speaker Mike Johnson is we're going to keep, and Majority Leader John Thune, we're going to keep trying to put pressure on those moderate Democrats in the Senate to switch their vote. You just heard Julie. They're not planning to do that. That's what my reporting is saying. Those 3 Democrats, well, 1 independent technically, and 2 Democrats are the only ones, Fetterman, Cortez Masto, and Angus King, are the only ones that are going to continue voting for that CR. There will be no others tomorrow when that vote happens. 8th time won't be the charm. Stephen, the only people who like a deadline more in Washington than the journalists are the lawmakers. By paying the troops, the president is effectively removing a deadline that could sort of force the issue here. What happens now?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at this from the perspective of Republicans, it's true that he might be undermining them on sort of narrow policy points, but look at the big picture.
Right.
You have a president of the United States who's overseas right now, who's plainly made progress on an intractable international issue that's been intractable for centuries. Now, whether that'll hold or not, that's another question. But he's made progress, and I think if you're the American people, if you're not inside the Beltway, if you don't know a federal worker, you look at this and you say, well, Washington's shut down. That doesn't seem to be keeping the president from making progress on these things. And if he can go and sort of pick and choose, and I think it's very questionable legally. I think it's problematic for our system of government. It presents constitutional issues, of course. If he can go and pick and choose and sort of remove the places where Republicans might have to feel pressure by just saying, yeah, I'm going to pay the military. That would be bad for Republicans if we didn't pay the military, so I'm going to do it.
Right.
If he can do that effectively, I think that means this goes on for a lot longer.
Taryn, he's made it pretty clear he's not going to remove the pressure points for Democrats. If the next things up are, you know, WIC and some of these other popular programs that Democrats are focused on, they start feeling the pain here. Is that what changes the dynamics of who's under pressure here to make a deal?
I think this is one of the most unpredictable shutdowns, as we mentioned, and mostly because of him being, you know, threatening that he's going to go after to lay off these folks who are, you know, have leaned Democratic. I mean, he's just making these threats. He's making this so chaotic. This is on the heels of Doge. This is on the heels of this inefficiency and all these different things that were under the vein of efficiency. I think we've got people who are hurting, and it's really affecting the economy. And he's saying, you know, don't worry to these military families about your paycheck, because he's never had to live paycheck to paycheck. But the ripple effect of not paying federal workers, you know, most of these federal workers you're saying are in this D.C. DMV, but that's not actually true. There are a lot in the state of New Mexico. There are a lot in these states all across the country. Nationally, we have federal workers, and the impact of those folks in these different places really has a ripple effect on our economy, which is already shaky. It's already expensive at the grocery store. It's already expensive a lot of places. And I think we're all worried, like, what is this going to mean overall? And I think that's where you get that pressure. We had 4 years with the Democratic administration, and even in a divided government, and we still didn't have a government shutdown. The last time we saw this shutdown, we're all not talking about it, was the first Trump administration.
That's right.
We need to be able to negotiate, and I think at some point there's going to be some Republicans worried about their jobs who are going to say, I got to come to the table. People are going to realize the last time we did this was Trump, and we didn't do it for 4 years. We had a break from people trying to really come together and negotiate.
Well, I don't know about that. Broadly speaking, there wasn't always a good faith effort to negotiate. And the numbers here are confusing, too, because when we pull back, Reuters has a new poll. We can put this up on the screen that show who people blame. In this place, it's kind of a mess. Republicans in Congress, 67%, Trump, 63%, but Dems get 63%. Then you shift it over to who do they blame most, and it's Trump. and Republicans in Congress, the numbers change a little bit. How much, here we go, it's the second set of numbers. Trump gets some of the share of the blame, Dems in Congress get a share of the blame. Republicans actually get less of the blame in terms of congressional Republicans. Stephen, you mentioned the president, he's kind of on this high overseas right now. I look at those numbers, and I think the people who have the most room to potentially be worried are Democrats. Yeah. How do you see those numbers changing?
Well, I think that's how Republicans see it. I mean, I think if the case that Taryn made were true across the board, if that's the way that people felt this, if it was the case that, boy, Democrats were going to be able to say, look, we're going to see economic ripple effects from this, and the President of the United States is responsible, they would be in the catbird seat. But I don't think people are there yet. And I think it's a hard case to make that the economic challenges we're facing now are in any way attributable to this shutdown. But I think the bigger challenge for Democrats is making people blame the president and blame Republicans for this shutdown.
Danielle, I feel like when we see these things, the party that tends to be the most united wins here, but the party that, which I guess you could argue is Democrats right now, but the party who brings the extraneous outside issue tends to be the party that loses. That's also Democrats here. What pressure does the Democratic leadership under now to find some kind of off-ramp here to say that's enough to start, trading votes here?
Well, I appreciate you asking about that, Garrett, because I just wrote about it.
Wow, on Notice. We'll have to go find it.
Yeah, on News of the United States. But anyway, they are more united now than they've ever been. I mean, remember back in March, we all covered that as well, and we saw Leader Schumer get so much criticism for folding without any sort of negotiations, and they're incredibly dug in. I mean, it seems like they might be dug in, and the discussions behind the scenes are for weeks. They think this is a winning issue. They think that while maybe not all Americans understand what they're fighting for just yet, they will November 1st when people get notices about the ACA subsidies and enrollment opens up for health care. So when I talk to these Democrats on Capitol Hill, because I've been covering the shutdown every day, not like Julie currently on Capitol Hill, I'm here, but I've been there, and it's clear that they feel very confident about this. And we're also seeing Republicans really stick to their guns as well, even moderates. I mean, I was there when we saw Mike Lawler, a very moderate Republican, fighting with Democratic leadership saying, look, we're trying to solve this and you're not negotiating with us on 1-year ACA subsidies, which, of course, Leader Jeffries has already said is a non-starter. But this is just so messy, and they're not, the leadership at least, coming together yet to negotiate this. It could potentially be moderates, rank and file, starting those conversations, like Jeanne Shaheen, senator, who is very interested in ending this ASAP. But the negotiations are not there yet.
We're up against the wire, but I want to get one more topic in. I'll go to you on this, Taryn. We've seen these indictments in recent days. Letitia James, James Comey. We have some reporting that John Bolton could potentially be indicted here in the not-too-distant future. This is an area in which the president's activities have been largely unpopular, not necessarily relating it to the shutdown. But how do you see a potential third indictment of a presidential enemy in roughly as many weeks playing into these discussions more broadly and perhaps bringing the pressure on the president up a little bit here?
Yeah, I mean, I do hope that it puts some pressure on the president, because I do think these revenge tactics and venge tactics are not popular. And I think that people are really scared about the slippery slope we're seeing. This feels really uncomfortable. And it can be bad for Republicans when Republicans aren't in power. Like, you got to think this through. This is why our country is so great. We have this freedom of speech, and we have these abilities that we have this protection that our president isn't going to come after us like some of these other countries we fought so hard to bring democracy to.
All right, Taryn, Stephen, Danielle, we have to leave it there on day 37 of the shutdown. We'll bring you all back. We'll do this again. It'll be great. We'll see what's changed. But for now, we got to leave it there. Up next.